Weirwood trees once existed all over Westeros. That is until the Ándalos arrived and took the southern lands from the first men. We know that the children of the forest claimed the trees were linked to their gods, and we know that the first men later adopted these so-called gods. Weirwood trees are unlike any other tree found in Westeros. If untouched, a weirwood tree will live forever. Though their bark is white, their sap is a deep red that curiously resembles blood. In A Dance with Dragons, when Bran finally encounters the true form of the three-eyed crow beneath the ancient weirwood tree, he finds not only Bloodraven and the children of the forest, but dead things as well. There are bones. Bones of men, bones of children, bones of giants, bones of animals, all scattered before the Greenseer throne. Why the strange display? Is there perhaps an ominous explanation? It is believed that the first men of Westeros thousands of years ago sometimes would place the bodies of the condemned at the base of weirwoods, and even at times place the entrails and limbs within the branches. This custom is largely unexplained even till this day. However, the Stoneborn of Skagos are rumored to still keep this practice. On the Iron Islands there are stories of Yig, the demon tree. According to the legend, Yig was a great tree with pale wood. Yig fed on human flesh and was cut down by the Grey King and made into the world's first longship. We don't know whether or not the legend of Yig refers to a weirwood tree, but the fact that it has pale wood seems to be a pretty big hint. The story of Yig is well known in the Iron Islands. In A Dance with Dragons during Stannis' snowstorm, Asha Greyjoy seems very distrusting and fearful of the strange northern trees. She even notes how much the sap looks like blood. "It's only sap," she told herself. "The red sap that flows inside these weirwoods." But her eyes were unconvinced. Seeing was believing, and what they saw was frozen blood. Davos 29, A Dance with Dragons. If Yig is described as a weirwood tree on the Iron Islands, then it would make sense that Asha, being someone who grew up on Pike, would be suspicious of weirwood trees to some extent, having heard the legend of Yig her entire life. It is likely that the legend of Yig originated from outsiders discovering weirwood trees surrounded by human bones. Over time, the tale shifted from the strange to the unnatural, and these customs of the first men became the tales of the pale demon tree. But this begs the question, why does such a strange custom exist in the first place? In the prologue of A Dance with Dragons, Varamyr Sixskins collapses bleeding before a weirwood tree. Varamyr can feel the heart tree watching him, and his mind drifts to the horrible things that he's done in his life. When Varamyr finally dies, for an instant he is part of the weirwood. He sees himself twitching and dying in the snow. He feels as though he is one with the forest, one with nature. A horned owl flew silently between his trees, hunting a hare. Varamyr was inside the owl, inside the hare, inside the trees. Deep below the frozen ground, earthworms burrowed blindly in the dark, and he was them all, as well. "I am the wood, and everything that's in it," he thought, exulting. The prologue, A Dance with Dragons. So just for a moment as he lays dying, bleeding into the weirwood, Varamyr becomes a part of the forest. He experiences in that instance a oneness with nature like nothing he had ever felt before. It only ends when he chooses to inhabit the body of his wolf. It seems as though by allowing himself to die alongside the tree, he unknowingly offered his soul to the woods. Because of his power as a skin changer, he was able to live a second life through his wolf instead. When Bran asks one of the children of the forest about the rest of their kind, she responds that they were gone down into the earth, into the stones and into the trees. This suggests that when the children died, they experienced the same oneness with the forest and nature that Varamyr did, just for that instant. In other words, they experienced an afterlife. The idea of an afterlife would seem to contradict the show's insistence that there is only darkness after death. But does it truly? There is no indication that such an afterlife exists for those who die beyond the reach of weirwood trees. If the weirwood trees can provide a kind of afterlife for someone who dies near one, then the bones at the base of the trees start to make more sense. We have no evidence that weirwood trees are linked to gods in any real way. We know that the weirwoods store memories and that greenseers can watch through them. The idea that one can exist after death was likely highly appealing to the first men, who, if the TV show is correct, live in a world where there is nothing after death. We don't know why the first men agreed to adopt the so-called gods of the children of the forest. We know that the Pact stated that no more weirwood trees were to be cut down, but that says nothing about the first men taking the nameless gods for themselves. What if the first men were deceived? The old gods aren't real. The religion of the old gods is one that the children intentionally led mankind into. We know that much of the power of the children of the forest is linked to the weirwood trees. What better way to ensure the protection of their power source than to convince mankind to literally worship them? And the purpose of the bones? It does seem as though dying before a weirwood tree does grant some kind of afterlife, but that's not all it does. When Varamyr bled into the grounds and his blood soaked into the weirwood's roots, his mind became a part of the weirwood tree as well. If Varamyr had not warged into his wolf, would he have remained a part of this oneness forever? If so, then the implications could be huge, because those who have died before the weirwood tree must still exist in some form within the collective of weirwoods. Could this mean that one day Bran may have access to them? Through them, perhaps he could learn the secrets that the children of the forest and Bloodraven are keeping from him. In any case, it is known that during the war between the First Men and the children, the First Men feared the weirwoods, so they cut them down on sight wherever they came across them. The best way for the children to protect their source of power was to convince the First Men that these trees were God. Whatever magic the weirwoods possess, it's a part of the natural world of the Song of Ice and Fire. This was a magic harnessed by the children and used to manipulate mankind. It seems as though the pact between men and children never truly solved anything, because the war never actually ended. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more ideas of Ice and Fire.